That night was supposed to be one of celebration and joy. I had just received a promotion that I had worked years to achieve, and I was excited to share the news with my husband Beckett and my mother-in-law, Alara. It was our 5th wedding anniversary, and I imagined a beautiful evening filled with laughter, maybe a toast, and a special dinner to mark the occasion. But instead of happiness, the night spiraled into something I could never have expected. As soon as I revealed my promotion, the atmosphere changed. Beckett stood up and, in a fit of anger, grabbed the anniversary cake and threw it at me. The cake landed on my head, leaving me soaked and in shock. At that moment, a fierce determination took over me. I knew this was not a relationship I could stay in, but I also knew that I couldn't just walk away quietly. I wanted revenge, and soon my life began to take a turn in ways I had never imagined. Let me take you back a bit. My name is Tessa, and I live in Boston, where I work as a financial analyst. For the longest time, I thought my life was perfectly on track. I had a successful career, a supportive husband, or so I thought, and everything seemed to be falling into place. But the night of our anniversary was the night that changed everything. The memory of that evening is still fresh in my mind. The sun was setting over the city, casting a warm, golden light, and I was practically glowing with excitement. I had just been promoted to senior financial analyst, a position I had worked tirelessly for. As I sat at the dinner table, I was filled with anticipation, ready to share this major milestone with Beckett and his mother. I imagined smiles, cheers, maybe even a proud toast. The restaurant was elegant, with soft lighting and the gentle clinking of glasses creating a peaceful ambience. I remember taking a moment to appreciate the beautiful surroundings and the fact that Beckett had always been my biggest supporter. Or at least, that's what I had believed. When I finally gathered the courage to share my news, I was met with a response that left me speechless. Beckett, Alara, I began, my heart racing with excitement. I've got great news. I've been promoted to senior financial analyst. The words hung in the air, and I waited for their reactions, perhaps applause, smiles, or even just a few kind words. Instead, I was met with an eerie silence. Alara's face twisted in disapproval, and my stomach dropped. Is this why we raised him? She spat, her voice dripping with disdain. To be overshadowed by his wife's career? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had expected pride, or, at the very least, a little happiness for my success. Instead, it felt like I had just committed a terrible sin. Beckett shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes filled with conflict. I could see he wanted to support me, but the weight of his mother's expectations loomed large. Mom, it's great news for Tessa, he said, his voice weak and unconvincing. We should be celebrating her achievement, but Alara wasn't done. What about starting a family, Tessa? She snapped. Do you think a promotion can replace the joy of children? Her words cut deep. I felt my face flush with anger, but I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. Alara, I said, my voice steady, I believe I can balance both my career and a family. This promotion means everything to me. Beckett looked down at the table, refusing to meet my gaze. Maybe we should consider what Mom is saying, he murmured, his tone cool and distant. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own husband, the man who had stood by me through so many ups and downs, was now siding with his mother. I can't just give up my job to meet your mother's expectations, I replied, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I've worked too hard, and I deserve to be respected for it. The tension at the table was palpable. I could feel the eyes of other diners on us, but I didn't care. I was fighting for something bigger than a job. I was fighting for my self-respect. Beckett's expression hardened. You're being unreasonable, Tessa, he snapped. You're my wife, not my competitor. Why can't you see that? His words stung more than I thought possible. This isn't a competition, Beckett, I said, my voice trembling. I'm trying to share my success with you, with both of you. Tears threatened to spill over, but I held them back. Alara leaned in, her gaze sharp. You need to think about what's best for this family, Tessa, not just your career ambitions. I felt trapped. Everything I had worked for, everything I believed in, was being attacked. This is who I am, I said, my voice rising with anger. And I won't give it up. Not for anyone. Beckett stood up abruptly, his body tense. You just don't get it, do you? He said, his voice filled with frustration. You're putting your career above everything else. Marriage is about sacrifice. Tessa, at that moment, I realized how much his mother's words had twisted his perception of our relationship. He no longer saw me as his partner. He saw me as a threat. The person I thought I had married was slipping away right before my eyes. Marriage shouldn't mean losing yourself, I retorted, my face burning with a mix of anger and humiliation. I deserve to have my dreams too. The argument reached a boiling point, and in a moment of pure rage, Beckett grabbed the anniversary cake and hurled it at me. It hit me square in the face, leaving me drenched and humiliated. Gasps echoed around the restaurant, and all conversation ceased. I stood there, covered in cake, tears streaming down my face, feeling utterly betrayed. But amid the shock and pain, something else began to rise within me. A fierce determination took hold, and I knew in that moment that this was the turning point. The trust one had once placed in Beckett was gone, replaced by a resolve to reclaim my life. That night had begun with excitement and ended in complete chaos. I stepped out of the restaurant. A storm of emotions surged through me: anger, fear, and surprisingly, a glimmer of hope. I knew that change was necessary, and I was finally ready to face whatever was coming. The cool night air wrapped around me as I stumbled onto the street, bringing me back to reality. I couldn't shake the humiliation that hung over me, not just from Beckett's outrageous actions, but from how the entire evening had unfolded. What should have been a joyful celebration had turned into a complete disaster. Driving home, I replayed the evening's events in my mind, over and over again. How had things gotten so bad? The man I had loved, the man I had built a life with, had thrown a cake at me, while his mother's toxic influence turned him against me. I thought about the dreams we had once shared, the life I thought we had together, and suddenly, it felt like everything was falling apart. I felt like a ship lost at sea, with no direction. When I finally arrived home, the silence was unbearable. I dropped my keys on the counter and sank into the nearest chair, still in a state of shock. The walls seemed to close in on me, and the only sound I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen. No messages from Beckett. No apologies. No concern. Nothing. Desperate to speak to someone, I dialed my closest friend and colleague, Juniper. I needed someone to talk to, someone who would understand. After a few rings, she picked up. Tessa? Is everything okay? She asked, her voice filled with concern. No, Juniper. It's not, I stammered, my voice trembling. You won't believe what just happened. What happened? Are you all right? She asked, her worry intensifying. I took a shaky breath, trying to steady myself. I announced my promotion at our anniversary dinner, and everything went downhill from there. Alara was furious. And then, Beckett threw the anniversary cake at me, I whispered, disbelief still lingering in my voice. There was a heavy silence on the other end of the line. Oh my God, Tessa. Are you hurt? She asked, her voice rising with alarm. I'm okay physically, but emotionally, I don't know, I admitted, my voice breaking. It feels like everything I believed about my marriage has been destroyed. Tessa, listen to me, Juniper said firmly, her words acting like a lifeline pulling me out of my despair. You don't deserve to be treated like this. You need to get out of that situation. I know, I whispered, but it's not that easy. We've been together for years, and I thought we were happy. I thought I was happy. Sometimes people change, especially under pressure. You need to think about what's best for you now, she said, her voice gentle but resolute. As I listened to her, a wave of realization washed over me. I had given up so much for this relationship, and now I was left feeling empty and alone. I think I need to talk to a divorce attorney, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The words felt strange, almost foreign, but at the same time liberating. Do it, Juniper encouraged. I'll be with you every step of the way. You deserve to be happy. After hanging up, I sat there for a moment, overwhelmed by a mix of fear and determination. The thought of divorce terrified me, but it also felt empowering. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was taking control of my own life. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy heart but a clearer mind. I picked up my phone and dialed the number Juniper had given me for a divorce attorney. "Hello, my name is Tessa. I need to file for a divorce," I said as soon as the call connected. "Understood," the attorney replied. "Can you come in this afternoon to discuss the details?" "Yes," I responded, hanging up with a sense of resolve. I was taking the first step, and though it was painful, it was necessary. At work, I tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, but the weight of the previous night's events pressed down on me. My boss, Mr. Beckettson, noticed my distraction during the morning meeting. "Tessa, is everything all right? You seem a bit off today," he asked, his voice gentle. "I'm dealing with some personal issues, but I'll be fine," I said, forcing a smile. "You know you can talk to me if you need to," he offered, his tone warm and supportive. "Thank you, Mr. Beckettson. I really appreciate that," I replied, feeling grateful for his understanding. Later that day, Juniper surprised me by showing up at my office with lunch. "I thought you could use a break," she said, sitting down across from me. "How did the meeting with the attorney go?" she asked. "I haven't gone yet," I admitted, feeling the nerves building up. "I'm anxious about what's going to happen next. Just take it one day at a time." "You're stronger than you think, Tessa," Juniper said, her words sparking a small flame of hope inside me. That afternoon, I buried myself in my work, focusing on numbers, spreadsheets, and analyses. It was my way of escaping the emotional storm brewing inside me. Finally, it was time for my appointment with the attorney. I took a deep breath before stepping into her office, my heart racing with anxiety. The attorney, a poised middle-aged woman named Seraphine, greeted me with a warm smile. "Let's get started," she said, her tone professional yet kind. "Tell me what's been going on." As I recounted my story, detailing the emotional and mental strain I had endured, I felt a sense of empowerment building within me. I was no longer a victim. I was taking action. "Tessa, it sounds like you've made the right choice for yourself. You deserve to be in a supportive, healthy environment," Seraphine said, her words resonating deeply. When I left the attorney's office, I felt a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. I had taken a major step toward reclaiming my life. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready. I would no longer let others define my happiness. I would find my voice, my strength, and my freedom. In the weeks that followed, life became a whirlwind of emotions and tough decisions. Each day felt like a tug-of-war between fear and hope, but I pressed forward, determined to rebuild my life. As I joined Juniper at the bar, a sense of relief began to wash over me, slowly lifting the weight of the last few weeks. "Cheers to new beginnings," she exclaimed, raising her glass with a smile. "To new beginnings," I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. We started chatting about work, my promotion, and the exciting possibilities ahead. I even shared my plan to start a mentorship program for young women in finance. "I want to help them navigate the same challenges I faced," I told her. "That's a brilliant idea. You'd be an amazing mentor," Juniper said, her encouragement lighting a spark inside me. As the evening continued, I began to feel lighter, more like myself. I was slowly rediscovering my passions and dreams. The laughter and connection with Juniper were exactly what I needed to reignite my spirit. The following week, I met with Marlo, an industry contact, over coffee. She had invited me to speak at an upcoming conference. "I'm so glad you agreed to join us, Tessa. Your story can inspire so many people," she said as we settled into a cozy cafe. "I hope so. I really want to empower others to find their voices," I replied, feeling a surge of determination. As the conference date drew near, I spent hours preparing my speech, weaving in lessons I had learned along the way. The night before, I practiced in front of the mirror, a mixture of nerves and excitement bubbling inside me. On the day of the conference, I stood backstage, heart pounding as I waited for my turn. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of how far I'd come. When the host introduced me, I stepped onto the stage, greeted by applause from the packed auditorium. "Thank you for having me," I began, scanning the sea of faces before me. I stand here today, not as a victim, but as someone who chose to reclaim her life and use her experiences to empower others. My journey wasn't easy, but it taught me that our voices matter. We deserve to be heard, to be seen, and to chase our dreams unapologetically. I shared my story, the highs and lows, the pain and victories. As I spoke, a sense of purpose filled every word. By the time I finished, the audience was on their feet, applause echoing through the hall. Afterward, women approached me, sharing their own stories and thanking me for my honesty. It was then that I realized my pain had transformed into strength, not just for myself but for others as well. In the days following the conference, I received messages from women across the country. They had been moved by my story and wanted to join my mentorship program to learn how to navigate the professional world with confidence and resilience. What had started as a small initiative had blossomed into something bigger than I ever imagined. Even though I was thriving, the shadow of Beckett still lingered at times. I would hear his name in conversations or through mutual friends, finding out that he was struggling to move on. But I remained steadfast in my decision. I had made my choice, and I wasn't going to look back. One evening, as I sat in my cozy apartment, reflecting on everything that had happened, a deep sense of peace washed over me. I was no longer defined by the hurt Beckett had caused. I had built something meaningful, not just for myself, but for others too. My life had found a new purpose, and I had found my voice again. A few months later, my mentorship program received a nomination for a prestigious award recognizing contributions to gender equality in the workplace. I was stunned and humbled by the recognition. When the night of the award ceremony arrived, I was surrounded by supportive colleagues and friends, including Juniper, who had been my rock through it all. When they called my name, I made my way to the stage, applause filling the room. "I'm honored to receive this award," I began, gripping the microphone. "But this isn't just my achievement. It belongs to every woman who has ever been told her dreams were less important, that her voice didn't matter. We all deserve to be heard, and we all deserve to succeed." As I spoke, tears pricked my eyes. This moment was beyond anything I could have imagined. I was no longer just Tessa, the woman who struggled to find her place. I was Tessa, a mentor, an advocate, and a beacon of hope for others. Stepping off the stage, Juniper embraced me tightly. "You did it," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "We did it," I corrected, smiling through the happy tears. "I couldn't have done this without you." In the months that followed, my life continued to evolve. The mentorship program expanded, reaching even more young women eager to learn and grow. I traveled to different cities, sharing my story and connecting with others who had faced similar struggles. One day, after wrapping up a workshop in New York, I received an unexpected call. It was from a major publishing company interested in turning my story into a book. They believed my journey could inspire countless others and wanted to share it with a broader audience. I was speechless. Writing a book had never crossed my mind, but this opportunity felt like the culmination of everything I had been working toward. I agreed, and soon, I found myself poring over my experiences, each chapter a testament to resilience and growth. When the book was finally published, it received an overwhelming response. Readers from around the world reached out, sharing how my story had given them hope and courage. I knew then that I had truly turned a painful chapter of my life into something positive. The book's success opened new doors. I was invited to speak on television, attend major events, and consult with companies on creating more inclusive work environments. My life, once so broken and uncertain, had transformed into a journey of purpose and empowerment. Years passed, and one sunny afternoon, I stood in front of a room filled with eager young women at a mentorship event. As I looked out at their faces, I realized how far I had come. The woman who had once been humiliated and cast aside was now a symbol of resilience. I had reclaimed my life, found my voice, and become a guiding light for others. "Remember," I told them, my voice steady and strong, "your story is yours to write. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Chase your dreams, speak your truth, and never settle for anything less than what you deserve." The room erupted in applause, and as I stood there, I knew that this was just the beginning. My story wasn't just about overcoming a toxic relationship. It was about rediscovering who I was and using that strength to build something beautiful. Looking out at the sea of faces, I felt a deep sense of peace. The future was wide open, and I was ready to embrace every challenge and triumph that lay ahead.